Hello and welcome back to today's episode of Crypto. My God, we're back on a new week on a Monday. Markets, we left them looking pretty good on Friday, looking like absolute shit on today, Monday. So let's get right into it. All right, so quickly, what's going on here? Well, we've had a lot of conversation, especially leaving the end of last week, where the U.S. was coming out and saying, hey, we're going to have talks with China to relieve some of the stress under this conversation, maybe take away some of the tariffs, maybe find a solution. It turns out that was not really substantiated. So the U.S. keeps saying, hey, China wants to talk. China comes back on the opposite, saying, LOL, nah, bro, JK, and nothing seems to be moving forward. So that's definitely impacting some of the market movement to the upside. And of course, we have just kind of in a flag at half mast kind of sign of respect. You do have Warren Buffett announcing his retirement in Berkshire Hathaway, one of the greatest capitalistic companies to ever grace the United States of America. Of course, with Warren stepping away, giant cash piles on hand following the death of his bestie, Charlie Munger. I mean, this is just a very big signal to the market to kind of take pause, to take a somber moment. And I do think these together have a sort of impactful news event on the market at large. Now, one thing I want to correct is when I signed off last week, I thought the Arizona bill was passing. It seems I got that wrong. I misread a quote from what I thought was the governor. I'm sorry, I'm not too deeply embedded in Arizona politics, but it does seem that Arizona governor vetoes Bitcoin reserve bill, calls BTC an unsound investment. And while this got through the House and the Senate in Arizona, I'm honestly not hugely shocked to say that a governor wouldn't want to put her constituents' retirement savings into Bitcoin. She basically says, digital money, unproven, not really a bet that she wants to make. And while it is ballsy and has a major return for potential upside, I mean, the risk of downside on your constituents, again, retirement assets, that's a big risk. However, we do see this as positive momentum as it did get through both their House and their Senate. And we'd like to see more of these proceedings come forth. They all come with a very solid introspection as well as a good takeaway. And at the very least, they act as very powerful educational tools for the governors of these states. Of course, today marks the end of Besson's timeline to discuss something around a federal Bitcoin reserve bill. Whether that's going to happen or not, hard to say. I haven't really seen any movement. Now, at the same time, with Arizona taking out their lead in the race, we do have New Hampshire on the list. We have North Carolina, Texas, Alabama. So there are a couple other states looking at this. And as this post likes to say by coinage, New Hampshire would be a little bit more fitting, just given their heavy libertarian roots of that state. So again, Arizona's out for now. There's a lot of states still on the map, and we're looking forward to a federal bill that will probably boost a lot of confidence. Now, one thing that is a concern is this parallel narrative of the sort of Trump grift, which is the Trump coin itself, what subsequently was Melania, World Liberty Fi, the presidential dinner now to host the top Trump coin holders. And realistically, as they dive in and the news begins to get a little deeper in this, they're going to realize how much of a cash cow this has been. The Trump coin itself, they've had over $800 million in the DevCoins unlock. I believe they've probably withdrawn, close to $1 billion. So this is really a dangerous narrative in parallel. We have two very distinct things going on with this administration. One, they're giving the SEC and the regulators free rein to actually make laws. Regardless of what Gary Gensler said in the Biden administration, the previous securities laws simply did not suffice. They had nothing to do with autonomous agents, and we are entering the world of AI, smart contracts on chain, and auto-executable code. The entire regulatory framework around securities relies on intermediaries, and it just so happens that crypto automates intermediaries through algorithms. Now, we have a really positive impact, as I've discussed, on the regulators, which will take their sweet time to create bills, to create laws, and to create proposals that they think are wise in the very long term, right? They're trying to set a foundation for the rest of time. This is something that is slow and should be a slow process. However, at the same time, we have Trump and his family, and basically there's no rules around campaign violations and financing and such, and they're just going for the complete money grab. Now, I often think that taking something as bipartisan and really nonpartisan as crypto and slapping this Trump family grift on top can be very dangerous. So there is a lot of opportunity for a big snapback against them as they do continue to extract a lot of value. And of course, we're already seeing Senator Cynthia Lumis, who's a major Bitcoin supporter and a supporter of the Bitcoin reserve bill, but she's even come out to say, a lot of the things going on in the Memecoin land of Trump world are a little sus, and this Trump dinner, very suspicious. I mean, the last I saw the dinner, cost is in like 1.2 million to become a top holder of the coin. And of course, you don't know who's going to hold this, right? What if they're foreign agents? What if they're adversaries? This is all a very dangerous concept, and it's something that I do think we need to be wary about. Now, back to the SEC, we do have a new crypto task force meeting this week. Actually, maybe it's on the 12th, so not quite this week, but it is coming up. And I think this is a fun one. This is moving tokenization, moving assets on chain, where TradFi and DeFi meets. And I do think this is going to be the biggest winner coming out of these SECs and this appropriate regulation world. I've said this 1,000 times. Blockchain is the digitization of finance. It is simply better than the pre-computer world that all of finance is built on right now, where they actually print out documents, where they exchange them, these crazy intermediary systems that can now be automated. There's no reason for a $25 wire fee. There's no reason to close markets due to working hours. There's no reason for geographical boundaries. Just as we can move stablecoins across the world, so should the banking system keep up with such things. And this is going to be a fun agenda. There should be some interesting outcomes from it, which I will keep following. And now this gets me back to a DeFi protocol that I've been looking at a lot lately in regards to RWA and tokenization. So this is Centrifuge, the leading platform for tokenized financial products. And I think what I really like about what they're doing is that unlike a Web2 firm that might have a very glossy page, these are pretty straightforward financials. And what you can do here is take these real world assets like collateralized loan obligations, right? These are people that have taken out loans and that have to pay back that APY. So we know where this APY comes back into, and we can connect our wallet and take direct yield. This is a real world opportunity that pays out. Of course, we might see real estate, we might see consumer loans, we might see real estate, we might see consumer loans, we might see music royalties, but I think these are fascinating. And they have a product that to me is just like the creme de la creme, which is called Centrifuge Prime, where they take these yield-bearing opportunities and they have token treasuries doing very large direct investments. So we can see Gnosis DAO, Polkadot DAO, each have an over $1 million investment. This is pretty amazing if you have a token treasury, if you can lighten a little bit into stable coins and offer it over for consistent yield. This is how you run a business in the long term. So to me, Centrifuge is doing this interesting blend of taking digital only entities like DAO treasuries. DAOs are decentralized autonomous organizations. They're fully on chain. They're fully decentralized remote work kind of things. And this is allowing them opportunities to use the traditional financial businesses like real yield generation from loans to actually maintain that yield, keep themselves alive. And again, build a real business that is on chain. This is how we begin to connect those sinews between the digital world and the real world, with blockchain layer being the financial, the value transfer mechanism. So all of this is unpacking into quite a long tail bit of interest for me. I do see that this is fantastic for our industry, that it does show real growth and sustenance, but at the same time, we have the grift in the front and center from the Trump coin, and that is always disconcerting. I'm not sure how the markets will play out. I do think we'll probably digest some of this news, go back to a little bit more of a neutral. We'll have to see what recessions concerns look like, whether or not Japan comes to the table to talk about tariffs, what India tariff conversations look like, and of course, whatever happens with China. They are beginning to enter a painful situation, but they're very good at tolerance. So with that being said, good luck. Don't lever up too much, and stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow.